Hey everybody, welcome back. So this is episode 8 of Finding Grace. It's my series on digging into the genius of Grace VanderWaal and her creativity, her uniqueness in music history. It's not just about all of that, it's about her transition, her movement from the beginnings to, today to now. So what I'm doing with this episode 8, is I'm actually skipping forward. The first 7 episodes went to City Song, so it was chronologically, but I've decided to jump way ahead because many of you may have seen my reaction to Grace's IG Live almost 2 weeks ago, where on that IG Live, she has 4 songs that I consider to be masterpieces or near masterpieces and show a major leap forward, even for Grace VanderWaal, in her musical ability and her musical talent. I was absolutely stunned. I said on that reaction that I had chills. And I'm not sure I've ever said that very often, but I mean, over my entire body, it was so spectacular. The experience was. And what it made me realize is that Grace has moved into a new stratosphere. I have said before in my Finding Grace series and in other songs that Grace VanderWaal is the greatest singer-songwriter of her generation. And I've said a few times, I've qualified that and said perhaps of all time. Well, I'm not qualifying that anymore. I'm saying Grace VanderWaal is the greatest singer-songwriter performer of recorded history, musical history, the last 130 years. She is the best. I may lose a few people right now for saying that, but I'm going to try to prove it in today's episode of Finding Grace. The reason, the five categories that I have her as the best in, just so as a synopsis, is she's the most vulnerable and benevolent singer-songwriter. She's the most ingenious in lyrics, and what I'm going to talk about today is Grace VanderWaal isn't just a lyricist; she is a master poet, up there in the ranks of poets, and I'll talk about that more as we're going on. She's the best of all time in music history, on her poetry, on her lyrics. She's the most introspective. Her music is introspective and personal, and it's very logical. It's very candid. She does that better than anybody else. I'm going to talk about that. Her vocals are the most nuanced. She has such a range that she goes to, and it's the best in music history. And when you put all those together, as I've said before, the 5th one on there is it creates an atmosphere. Grace's musical atmosphere is the greatest atmosphere emotionally and penetratingly of all time. All that said. So when I listened to that IG Live, and when I've listened to her before, what she does in that IG Live is she does a fusion. As several of you, my subscribers, said as well. She fuses scat, reggae, R&B, rock and roll, ballads, funk. I mean, the chanteuse that she did early last year while she was at that school and was giving us those IG Lives. She mixes all of those together, and she creates this new sound. And I'm not sure it's a sound that anybody's going to copy. It could just be hers, like nobody can copy Shakespeare, I mean, or Beethoven. It just could be unique to her, and nobody can do it. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody can do it. But she reminded me of so many people when she was singing on that IG Live. She reminded me of Nina Simone, Patsy Cline, Patti Smith, the sort of edgy rocker in the 70s, Janis Joplin, the chanteuse, Louis Armstrong. As I mentioned in the IG Live, she's got the whole sort of heart rock group and Joan Jett sound going a little bit. I mean, there's a whole bunch going in, and of course, I didn't even mention a bunch of others that she sounded like. So this is going to be a long Finding Grace. So grab your wine, grab your beer if you want to hang with me on this, because I'm going to dive in to what I'm going to try to put into perspective just how phenomenal, unique Grace is. And when I say that, I mean on the level of a Mark Twain, a Beethoven, or a Shakespeare. The reason I'm skipping forward is I think Grace is bringing something so phenomenally new and age-defying that it actually brought to my mind a quote by Ben Jonson when he was talking about Shakespeare after 7 years after Shakespeare died in the first folio of 1623. Ben Jonson said, was a fellow poet, and he said of Shakespeare, whom he knew well and whose performances he had been to, he said he is not of an age, he is of all for all time. And I think, frankly, I don't think it's overstating the case to say that Grace VanderWaal has now achieved that status with what she did on IG Live. She's not intending to do that, of course. She's just putting out her ingenious music. She's having fun, as she made clear in that IG Live. She's not just a poet and a vocal genius. She's also an ingenious performer. She does something. One reason I'm doing this, one reason I'm saying this is Grace puts everything together. The only thing that she's not a genius at yet is playing instruments. She's very good at playing instruments, but that's not what sets her apart. Although she's very good at punctuating the guitar, ukulele. What sets her apart are three things. Her poetry, it's not just lyricism, it's poetry, master poetry. Her poetry, her vocals, and her performing of those two things. Those are the three things. She's a grand performer. Those three things are what set her apart. There are a lot of performers in music history who had one or two and almost all three of those, to the very few who came close. Freddie Mercury came close. Freddie Mercury was a good writer, master performer, master vocalist. So he had two out of the three. Frank Sinatra, master vocalist, charismatic performer, didn't write. So there was no lyricism. So he didn't have all three. Elvis, great voice, spectacular performer, did not write. Very little. So, Tapestry, Carole King, master lyricist, not a poet of Grace's caliber though. Master lyricist, sweet voice, not a good performer. Chris Christopherson, master lyricist, not as great a poet as Grace. Again, Grace is the greatest musical writer of all time. So I'll just put that out there. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit, why she is. And of course, Chris was not a charismatic performer. I could just go on down the list. I mean, you got Pink Floyd, you've got one great writer who's still not of Grace's caliber, Roger Waters. Of course, master musicians, and David Gilmour's very nice vocals, but not the nuances that Grace brings to vocalism. I could just keep going on this. I mean, you know, Michael Jackson, all the greats. I mean, just there are dozens that I could mention. The Rolling Stones, the Beatles, master lyricists, but not as great as Grace VanderWaal. Yeah, I just said it. Great musicians, not great performers, really. I mean, they had their suits on and they looked great. And they were sort of charismatic in a way, but I mean, not really master performers, not like Grace VanderWaal, not out there in sort of a Freddie Mercury kind of riveting way. You know what I mean? So Grace has them all. She's got the lyricist, she's got the vocals, and she's got she's a master performer. You just can't take your eyes off of her. And this IG Live, if it wasn't proved before, that those four songs especially, I mean, watching her is a riveting experience. And for me, when I was watching it a couple of weeks ago, I just couldn't take it all in. I mean, of course, I just said, this is the greatest thing ever, but it was just too much to take in. I've had to watch it 3 times or so, or more since then, to really take it all in. And that's what I'm going to try to do today in this Finding Grace number 8. So here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to study 6 of the songs on here. The first 2 just briefly for about a minute each, because the first 2 songs she does on here, she's just sort of kind of playing with them a little bit, playing with her voice, having a good time. So I'm going to do a little bit of that, but I'm going to talk about the musical performers that she reminds me of. So I'm going to do that. It's going to be brief on the first 2, but then I'm going to go into the 4 that I consider masterpieces. Can you believe it? And in an IG Live, a spontaneous IG Live, we're getting 4 masterpieces. One of them she'd just written 2 days before. I mean, that's Shakespeare for you. I mean, one of the things Ben Jonson mentioned about Shakespeare is, and many said, he never blotted out words like Mozart. He just wrote this stuff down. It just came to him. That's the way grace works. I mean, Shakespeare writing Hamlet and 2 other great masterpieces in 1600. And yeah, I keep mentioning Shakespeare because, frankly, folks, we're getting close. That's the level that we're getting close to on Grace. And I think she's going to achieve that level of masterwork, masterful confidence, masterpieces. Eventually. And frankly, I think she's kind of getting kind of close right now. But anyway, so those 4, and I may have gotten the titles wrong on some of these, so y'all let me know. I've got the lyrics to all 4, so I think I got the lyrics a little bit wrong on some of those. Y'all please let me know. But anyway, those 4 in chronological order are going to be We're Just Kids, Made It Out Alive, You Need Me Now, and Just Let Me Hate You. Just love that. So those are the 4 that I'm going to dive into. So the way I'm going to do those 4 when I get to them is I'm going to play them all the way through so we can experience them all the way through. I might make a comment while she's singing. I might just briefly stop, but I'm going to try to play them all the way through so we can experience them. Then I'm going to talk about what she did vocally in them, a little bit about her musicality and her performance, briefly about those things, because I've talked about her vocals so much. So the thing I'm going to focus on is Grace has gone to an even greater level, past Lungs, past her last album on her poetry. I'm going to dive into Grace's lyrics and talk about how she has achieved a new level of poetic lyrical genius that goes along with everything else. So I'm going to study that, and I hope that doesn't bore you. I hope you'll stick around while I'm talking about her lyrics. So all of that said, let's jump into this. And this is going to be some kind of experience, let me tell you. It's going to be difficult. And I'm going to look forward to y'all's comments after all this is done. So let's start out. And I'm not sure, I don't know the name of this first one. So I'm not sure there's even a name on it. But I'm going to play about a minute of it. And here we go.
Yeah, I'm sitting on my balcony,
From jazz.
wondering what they can see.
Chantu.
There's a pink room sitting close to me. I see the girl in a grocery. Sometimes she stops and stares at me. She stares at me. She stares at me. I wonder.
Mixing that scat with Chantu's. Has anybody ever done that before? I don't know.
Why she's flying mercy, doesn't know what she needs. Cause right by me, I stare and glee, and I wonder what they see of me. Maybe I just walk by and blink my eye as the plane flies by. Hey,
Okay, so that's it on that one. The thing I wanted to really get to on this one is her sort of, I think she's sort of experimenting a little bit here. I mean, maybe it's a legit complete song. I don't know. But what she does with her voice, I mean, how many different tones and nuances did we hear in that? I mean, the hey, hey, ah, ha, and the scat and everything else. I mean, and the low register, the contralto, and then coming back up into sort of an alto. So the thing I really like about this is the experimentation and her vocal delivery and using the guitar to punctuate. So to me, this is a nice sort of primer for what she's going to get into later. So let's go to Drive Me Home, which is her second one. I think that's the name of it. And I'm going to talk about how she sounds like Patti Smith, especially Patti Smith's song Redondo Beach from 1977, I think it was. And then young Louis Armstrong with his scat. And I'll bring up little quick shot videos of them to sort of to give representation on that. So let me find that. And we'll do a little snippet on Drive Me Home. Okay, so this is Drive Me Home, and so let's get going on it.
I know sometimes I'm too much. I guess that's just how I have fun. I know sometimes I'm too much. I guess that's just how I have fun. Da, 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 da. I can't say that line. And I'm done every 5 seconds when you get the chance.
Charming.
Or how you look at me when I dance. Overthinking, that's my shit. An empty person, I'm a manifested. Can make up what you want to see, which is fun till nobody knows the real me.
Don't you love how her voice comes in like that? The real me. After she's done that scat. And I love her delivery, these little short lines.
Tell me, darling, can you see me? Wow. Turn off your goddamn phone. Why are you uncomfortable with us being alone? Yeah. Is there something you wanna tell me? Something I should know? I have been drinking, so I'm just asking. Can you drive me home?
Okay, she sounds very much, that has a very Patti Smith sound. I don't know if you're familiar with her from Redondo Beach. So here's a clip from Patti Smith on Redondo Beach where she sounds like Grace.
Late afternoon, dreaming hotel.
Didn't that sound like, I mean, how about that? I mean, I don't know if Grace has heard Patti Smith before, but I just think it's interesting that they both go there. It's a very sort of visceral way to express yourself. I mean, from the gut. Okay.
My hands are tingling, the bass is vibrating. We've turned the radio up too loud, yeah. Just trying to drown out all of our thoughts, but we're getting closer now. Yeah, we're getting closer as you drive me home.
Okay, so that again, so I'm gonna jump forward on this one a little bit to where she sounds very much like Louis Armstrong. Okay, so here's where she sounds like Louis Armstrong, and I mean, it just, even when I watched this on IG Live, I was just like, whoa, oh my God, that's like reincarnation of Louis. So here we go. She does her whoa, whoa.
As you drive me home, whoa, whoa. Ooh, whoa, whoa.
All right, so let's watch Louis do his sort of scat real quick, and tell me it doesn't sound like Grace. How about that? Okay, so Grace VanderWaal Armstrong. Here we go. Okay, so one thing I wanted to have a short clip in here also of how Grace is mixing everything up by showing how she sounded when she sang I Need a Dollar almost a year ago to the day. I think it was an IG Live where she sang the cover, I Need a Dollar, during that whole Chanteuse period. So here's a clip from how she sounded during that, how she's mixing that in now. So here's the clip.
I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need.
So how about that? So she's mixing all of those. And of course, I'm not even putting in clips from Repeat and Don't Assume What You Don't Know, her rock period, which she puts into the 4 songs coming up. So we're going to jump into the 4, what I consider to be the masterpieces from the IG Live. And we'll start out with We're Just Kids. So let's do that. Okay, so here we go with We're Just Kids, which her team wants her to release.
But I've never been sure about it.
I think it's hard. Background vocals.
An hour ago, I went down to that store, the place where we used to go.
It's like a rock ballad.
Down on Martha Road, I walked down 3 aisles, got some chips and a Four Loko. And while I was there, I saw a pair of shoes that I know that you used to wear.
Her rock voice is amazing. It's my favorite rock sounding female voice of all time.
It's been a month since you were in my hair. And shit, well, I guess that I'm now back here. This is hopeless winter solstice under the snow. 2 years ago when we had our first kiss. I'm trying not to reminisce no more.
You know how she mixes, like she does almost a rappy R&B sound with this? And I've not heard anybody else do that. With sort of a ballad rap R&B.
Oh, no more. But at this point I really think that I am just hopeless. But darling, I know that was years ago.
Ballad.
We were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids.
Pacing.
And I keep on telling myself the same thing.
What a voice.
We were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids.
Wow.
And I'm obsessive, dreaming, restless. I still have that necklace you got me on that Christian Christmas. Now I've lost my religion. I'm breaking.
Nobody in the musical history does that as well as she does. Those long phrases, I'll talk about those later.
All the meals, cause the lies tell the fears. Can't you see what you've done to me without you here? But
Up and down.
Jesus, I know that was years ago.
Wow.
We were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids. And I keep on telling myself the same thing.
Sad.
We were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids.
Oh, this is the best part.
And I'm snapping myself out of this, cause this is no way to live. No, this is no way to live. And I'm talking to my therapist to get me out of this, to get me out of this.
Ah, I got chills.
Baby, if I ride out of this shit down and give it the mic, help me get it all out. Because I know, I know, I know, and I know, and I know, and I know.
Oh my God.
Well, darling, I know that was years ago.
How did she go from that, I know, and I know, and I know, into straight into a ballad? Wow.
We were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids. And I keep on telling myself the same thing.
Bring that guitar back
We
in.
were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids.
We're just kids. That took me back to being a kid and having those emotions. That rampant energy, and then bringing it back down. We're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids. It's brilliant. I'll get into the writing here in a second on that, which makes it, when you combine Grace's vocal abilities and her performance, the energy she brings into it, the emotional impact she brings into it, when you add to that meaning, Grace puts meaning in every single phrase. And combining all those together makes her truly the greatest ever. But I love what she does with her voice. She's got a spectacular voice. I mean, I thought she had a lovely voice on AGT. I thought she had a very nice voice when she did her first 2 albums. And the third album, expanding it and it getting better and more nuanced and a little bit deeper and a little bit better control. What she's got now is this combination chanteuse rocker style, and she just oscillates back and forth so mellifluously, so fluidly, and it just takes your breath away. I got chills twice in that song. When she go the first time, and then when she goes, and I know, and I know, and I know, and then watching her performance on that, it's just spectacular. This song takes me places. All 4 of these songs that I'm doing, these main ones here, are take me places. But I'm going to get into the lyrics a little bit on this one. So, yeah. I'm gonna try to keep these below 5 minutes on talking about the lyrics, but I think it's really important to dive in. First of all, I got these lyrics from Tom Smith, my subscriber Tom Smith. So Tom, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, an hour ago I went down to that store. I think every other writer would just say the store. I went down to the store. To that store. Great. This is one of the ways that Grace personalizes her writing. She brings us right to it. What store? It's that store. The place that we used to go, talking to him. And evidently, Tom says this was about her relationship when she was 15. And it's not just that store. Then she says, way down on Martha Road. What a nice little image. That took me there. That's another thing Grace does. She's very specific. She very personalizes it. It's like she doesn't really care about us. She's relating her experience way down on Martha Road. I love how she does that. And then she has one of those long phrases that she does with her poetry, with her lyrical writing. I walked down 3 aisles, got some chips and a Four Loko, and while I was there, I saw a pair of shoes that I know that you used to wear. All stream of consciousness, and really takes you in. And it's like you're swept along. This is what Grace does with her writing. Is she'll give you these staccato phrases, way down on Martha Road, and then it's been a month since you were in my hair. Okay. She just said that I know that you used to wear it. And then you're thinking that she's going to continue the storytelling along Martha Road, on Martha Road. But then she stops and says a phrase that I've never heard before. It's been a month since you were in my hair. Oh my God, I've never heard that before. This is another thing. The great poets, Blake, Wordsworth, Longfellow, Yeats, Keats, Shakespeare. The thing that they did was they did not ever write a cliche. Grace is the most uncliched writer, lyricist that I've ever come across. She just doesn't do cliche. I mean, if she does it on purpose. She writes things so freshly. It's been a month since you were in my hair. And shit, well, I guess that I'm now back here. I love how she throws in, she goes deep, and then she just comes back with a nonchalant phrase. And by the way, I said something in the IG Live that I don't like cussing in music very much. It just seems It seems stale. It seems a way to get away from actually writing. But Grace, I have to give it to her, that when she does do it, it does seem, almost every single time, it does seem appropriate. And if you want to get across nonchalance, what better way to do that than say, and shit, well, I guess that I'm now back here. So it does work. And then she comes up, she does something in the next phrase. She says, this is hopeless, winter solstice, under the snow 2 years ago. Wow. Again, never heard anything phrased that way in musical history. And the way she does rhymes, Grace has no rules on rhymes. She rhymes twice, 2 different times in one sentence. This is hopeless, winter solstice, under the snow 2 years ago. Wow, what images. What great rhyming. Solstice and hopeless, never heard that one before. This is a poet at work here. This is a master poet, whether she knows it or not. She's a master poet. Imagine that just in a poem. This is hopeless, winter solstice, under the snow 2 years ago. I can see that in a Blake poem. You know, that's writing. And then when you add on top of this meaningful writing, how she performed this, what she does with her voice and everything, when you put all those things together, this is what I'm trying to get at here on this Finding Grace episode, is how masterful she is. The meaning, the rhyming, the poetry, the vocal nuanced range, the performance on top of everything else. When we had our first kiss, I'm trying not to reminisce. Never heard a writer rhyme kiss with reminisce. Again. And kiss is a 1-syllable word. Reminisce is 3. It's just amazing how she does that. I'm really trying to punctuate this because I'm in awe. I'm frankly in awe of how well this 17-year-old writes. And I got to say one thing here, and y'all help me out with this. I can't remember his name, who worked with Grace when she was, I think, 12 and 13. And there was a VanderWaal documentary where he spoke for about a couple of minutes about Grace. And he said about Grace, he said she's had no musical training to speak of. And that's part of what makes her great. There are no rules. Grace, y'all, please let me know his name. I forgot his name. Grace breaks all the rules. It's like the master art. I mean, really, when you talk about the greatest artists in history, they didn't have a bunch of musical education. The Beatles, McCartney a little bit, not the rest of the boys. In writing, you got, what's his name? Anyway, Shakespeare didn't make it past high school. Beethoven had a little bit of training, but not much. And so what it is, and these guys broke all the rules. So Mark Twain is who I was trying to think of. Mark Twain had jokes about education. One of his greatest gifts was that he had no education. I think he made it to 6th or 8th grade. And of course, he's one of the greatest writers in American history. The thing I'm trying to get at here is that musical education has so many rules, and a lot of times it can squelch the creativity and musicality. When I first heard that Grace was going to a musical art school or an art school, I wasn't out to say I was depressed is going too far, but I'm like, oh no, don't do that. Don't go to the tried and true. Don't go to boring. They're going to try to blandize you. They're going to try to make you bland. They're going to try to make you play by the rules. And of course, she ended up having a hard time there because you can't put geniuses amongst the rabble. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sure some of those people were talented. They're not talented compared to Grace VanderWaal. And she does not play by the rules. She doesn't play by the rules in her poetry, in her lyrical writing. She doesn't play by the rules in her vocals. She fuses things that people would have never thought could be fused before. She's completely uninhibited in her performance, whereas almost all other performers are uninhibited, very few exceptions. So she breaks all the rules. So she goes from these phrases in the storytelling, incredible writing, and then Grace does something that she does a lot, and that's bring an idea home. We were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids. And I keep telling myself the same thing, long sentence. We were just kids, we were just kids, we're just kids, we're just kids. So she does that. And then she goes into, again, she goes, okay, I'm obsessed with dreaming, restless, I still have that. I still have that restless. I still have that necklace. The necklace of dreaming, or the necklace, I don't know if it's a metaphor or she still has that necklace. I guess maybe it's both, but the necklace of dreaming. So it works as a metaphor whether she meant it or not. Probably she did. You got me on that Christian Christmas. Now I've lost my religion. What the hell is she saying here? Have you ever heard a songwriter call it a Christian Christmas? Because that's what Christmas is. It's redundancy. Christmas is Christian. Why is she almost being academic with that, calling it a Christian Christmas? It's almost like she has lost her religion. And then, of course, she comes back and says, now I've lost my religion. Is that what happened? And it's a throw-off line. You've got me on that Christian Christmas. Now I've lost my religion. What she tried to say here, it's so mysterious. It's another thing about Grace VanderWaal and her writing. It's so mysterious. I'm breaking all the mirrors, cussing, lies, telling fears. Can't you see what you've done to me without you here? But Jesus, I know that was years ago. We were just kids. We were just kids. Just amazing that we were just kids. And then she says, and I'm snapping myself out of this cause. This is no way to live. No, this is no way to live. And I'm talking to my therapist. This is another thing Grace does. She pauses and says the same word again. I'm talking to my therapist. So she breaks up the rhythm to really focus on I'm talking to my therapist. She does that a lot. I'm trying to express what she does with her writing here. To get me out of this, repetition again. And maybe if I write all this shit down and give in, it may help me get it all out. And give in, it may help me get it all out. John Kennedy did that with his famous speech about going to the moon. Or don't ask not what you can do for your country, but ask what your country can do for you. There's a name for that. She does it here. It's quite natural. Because I know. Again, because I know. I know, and I know. She doesn't just say, I know. She goes, I know, and I know, and I know, and I know. Grace breaks it up. She seems to be a natural at doing that. And it gives it more emphasis. I know, and I know, and I know, and I know. And when you were watching her perform it, I got chills at that moment. When it hit, and I know, the chills went up and down. I don't know why. It's just some sort of verbal thing that she added. And of course, the rock voice that she gave to it. We were just kids. So she finished that up. So I know that was a long analysis of the words. I'll probably never, well, I don't know. I may never go into the poetic ability of her into such great detail, but I'm really trying to drive home how spectacularly fresh and new and ingenious Grace VanderWaal is in her lyrical writing, in her poetry. All right, so we're gonna now move on to Made It Out Alive. So let me go find that and I'll pull it up. So here's Made It Out Alive. That bass.
Tell me if it's too loud or too quiet. I don't know, because you're right on my speakers.
It's never too loud, darling.
No dreams, walking down that same old street.
Just want to say, wow. How about that? No dreams. What was it? No dreams, no dreams, walking down that same old street. Wow. I mean, does that pull you in? Does me.
Where you used to meet your friends. Fuck them, where are they all now? Somewhere lost inside.
The voice, the staccato rhythm, the smoldering aspect of this.
And I walk in the night, and I'm sitting in the dark eye, and I'm lost in the sights. Don't know how I made it out alive. Running with covered eyes, 'cause I don't really know. And it's hard to realize, don't know how I made it, but well, I made it out alive.
I just need a moment, folks. Wow. Okay.
Don't know it's a thing. Don't know it's a thing. I'm swimming, drowning for 20 centuries. For 20 centuries. And I walk in the night, and I'm sitting in the dark eye, and I'm lost in the sights. Don't know how I made it out alive. Running with covered eyes, 'cause I don't really know. And it's hard to realize, don't know how I made it, but
Why did she give that face there where she doesn't like her voice or something's wrong with her voice? I just don't get it. My soul is moved by her voice right here. That raspy, rocky tenor that she has on that. Oh my God, it just moves. I'm not sure I've ever, I'm not exaggerating when I say I'm not sure I've ever been moved that much in listening to a song. Wow.
And then, real quick, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to this song. A lot more work.
Okay.
But, because I don't really love the drums. But I think that it could turn into, this huge, choir,
When she first said this, I wasn't so sure it needed a choir. But when she added her voice just then, it may have helped, but her voice by itself, oh my God, moves my very being. And let me see if there's more on this I wanted to react to.
Crazy.
So on Made It Out Alive, obviously that was only about a minute and a half or something like that. I think I'll just say that I think that's, for me, the greatest minute and a half that I've ever experienced in my musical listening. And it's just a shame for me that it doesn't go on to 3 or 4 minutes. And I think part of the reason is what it's saying. I made it out alive. I've had a few moments in my life where after it was over with, the words "I made it out alive" didn't come to me, but they would have been perfect. I made it out alive. Wow. That was such trauma that I made it out alive. And so I think almost all of us have been at that place in our lives and then gotten past it. If you're listening to this, well, then you obviously got past it. And now you made it out alive. And what Grace does is she brings the full emotional impact of that feeling to an embodiment, to fruition, to reality. And it just moves my very soul. And her voice in this, I just can't believe she's 17 years old. I mean, There's so much feeling in her voice, and it's so perfect. Her voice. I think the perfect Diana Ross voice wouldn't be right for this. It's got to be that character voice, that raspy, rocky chanteuse voice that Grace VanderWaal brings to a performance, to her music. So I want to talk about the lyrics on this. It's not much. And I want to thank Paul Hoffmaster for sending me over the lyrics on this. I made it out alive. So, it starts out with that bass guitar, which is a really nice sort of ominous, mysterious, somber, melancholic place, thoughtful, pensive place that we're going to start with. And she starts there with it. She goes, "No dreams." I just love that, no dreams. So you're in the moment. Walking down that same, and she does it fast, walking down that same old street. So she starts out slow, then she goes into that line, which she does, pace changes all the time. That's Grace VanderWaal. Just love how she can do that, how she does that. No dreams, walking down that same old street. I think that's what she says there. Where you used to meet. And then when I first heard this, I'm like, you who? But I realized she's talking to herself in the third person. No dreams, walking down that street where you used to meet. And then, of course, your friends. Your friends. Oh, no. She goes, your friends, fuck them. Wow. This is another thing that Grace does. Her candor. I mean, she's such a sweet soul. So it would be like my grandmother for me, who was a sweet soul. Always making breakfast for me and stuff like that when I lived with her for a little while I was going to college. Sweet, lovely lady. It would be my grandmother saying, your friends, fuck them. She loved my friends. But if she had said that, it would have been that shocking to me. It's almost that shocking to me when Grace says this because she is such a sweet soul. But we've gotten used to her candor, this dichotomy in Grace's soul in her music. That sweet, lovely, I made it out alive, that we can all connect to. Your friends, fuck them. I mean, that's Grace. And I love this about her. I love that she is grounded, that she's about making the judgments. But then a lot of times she backs off and she's like, okay, it just is what it is. Your friends, fuck them. Where are they all now? And one of the greatest lines I've ever heard. Somewhere lost and sour. Never heard that before, ever. Your friends are somewhere lost and sour. Their lives are sour. Lost and sour. Wow. That might define a few people I've known in my life. Lost and sour. It would define them. What a magnificent turn of phrase. And she just throws it out there. It's biting, it's harsh, it's brilliant. Okay. So she goes from saying in third person, and now she comes back and says, and I walk in the night, and I'm sitting in the dark, and I'm lost in the sights. Don't know how I made it out alive. Of course, in the song, that's the first time you hear it. And the first time I listened to this, and still now, don't know how I made it out alive. I can't believe I never actually thought about that myself, never put it that way. It sounds a little bit melodramatic, I think, almost, when you say it to yourself. Wow, I don't know how I made it out alive. Don't know how I made it out of that. But the way she sets this up in the relationships that she's having, and the people are lost and sour, and maybe she got a little bit lost and sour. Don't know how I made it out alive. It's just brilliant, brilliant writing. And then she does one of her things where it's so mysterious and it's such a great visual. She says, running with covered eyes. Covered eyes. Does she have her hand over her eyes? Is she wearing a bandana over her eyes? Has she got her eyes closed? Just love that. Running with covered eyes. And she's done that before. What was that one where she can't see and she trips over the stick? The wind blows, she trips over the stick. That was, y'all remind me. Running with covered eyes, because I don't really know, and it's hard to realize. Don't know how I made it. You think she's going to say out alive, but she doesn't. Don't know how I made it, and I love how she does that. She clips things. Don't know how I made it, but I made it out alive. Again, that's another place. She accentuates by pausing and repeating. But I made it out alive. And it's almost like nonchalant. But I made it out alive. Again, it's the feelings that she gets. It's the way she expresses her feelings that's so ingenious there. And then again, I made it out alive. And then she goes, our eyes glued tight. What does she mean by that? And then she's talking about the we form, third person plural. We, our eyes glued tight, as if we can't see each other. We can't see anything. We've glued them tight. I guess that's what she's saying. But don't know it's a thing. What's the it's? We can make, as listeners, we can make it our it. And of course, Grace does this all the time. She's unlike other writers, even Chris Christopherson and Carole King and Simon and Garfunkel and others. They make it pretty clear what the it is. With Grace, and there's not a whole lot of mystery. And great writers, though, but there's not a whole lot of mystery. With Grace, we don't know what it is because she's talking to herself or she's talking to the other person. All she's doing is letting us in vicariously, and it makes it better. It's crazy, but it makes it better, that mystery. But don't know it's a thing. That repeats it, what she does all the time. That don't know it's a thing. I'm swimming, drowning. I'm swimming, drowning. Love that. For 20 centuries. 20 centuries. She doesn't say for 20 centuries, for 20 centuries, for 20 centuries, 20 centuries. Love that. And what the hell does she mean by that? Is this almost seems like it's going back to the one while ago in Just Kids, where she said, what was it she says? A Christian Christmas? Now I've lost my religion? Because obviously that was 20 centuries ago that all started. And what's she saying? That the baggage of 20 centuries has her eyes glued tight? We don't know. But it's so phenomenally mysterious and riveting, and it seems to make sense because we've got the baggage of 20 centuries around us, don't we? I mean, isn't that what culture is? Centuries? And Grace throws it off like it's nothing. For 20 centuries, and then back to the staccato. And I walk in the night, and I'm sitting in the dark, and I'm lost in the sights. She has that I at the end of the sentence. And I'm sitting in the dark, It's just brief. She just pauses for a second. And I'm lost in the sights. And it's about the I. It's about the experience of the I. Remember she did that a while ago? I. And then she does it again. I don't know if Grace means to do this. I'm not sure she does. A lot of the great poets couldn't explain how they would do that, how they would end a sentence with something or how they would pause. But Grace does this so naturally, so perfectly. And it stuns you the way she does, stuns me the way she does it. And I'm lost in the sights. Don't know how I made it out alive. And then she goes into running with covered eyes and everything else. Anyway, this is a clipped song, unfortunately. I think it's my favorite of the four, and it's only a minute and a half because it moves me so much. I'm not saying it's the best, but it moves me personally the most. It's the one that brings tears to my eyes. It's brilliant. Absolute brilliance. It's a minute and a half of absolute brilliance. Okay, so I want to hear y'all's comments on all of these, please. Okay, so we're going to move on now to You Need Me Now. And again, I'm not really sure about the titles on these, so y'all correct me where I'm wrong. So we're going to move on to You Need Me Now. Okay, so here we go now with You Need Me Now. I think that's the title.
Oh, this is a good song. I like this song. So no one, okay. All right, so now backstory on this song.
Okay, we're not going to listen to the backstory. I love how happy this is after the other ones. Just love this. This new album is going to be, there's no adjective for it. Spectacular, off the charts, extraterrestrial. I just gotta say something real quick. I just love how she claps. I guess it's her nails or whatever, but the way she claps, it's almost like a quarter clap. It's so funny. It's so grace. It's so elegant. Her voice. You want clipping it.
But if I'm seen as a cigarette butt, smoke down just to get a quick buzz, thrown down into the dirt and buzz. When you've had enough, when you've had enough, might as well just cut it off now. Save us from just dragging it out.
Ow.
I guess I would just go.
Kidding me.
No, you don't need me
Is there anyone so spectacular of a soul as Grace VanderWaal? No, thank you very much, Dax. Thank you for answering your own question.
I guess I should just go. No, you don't need me It used to be so new and free and fun.
Fun.
Now it's office jobs for everyone.
Jobs for everyone.
But if I'm seen as a cigarette butt, smoke down just to get a quick buzz, thrown down into the dirt and buzz. When you've had enough, when you've had enough, we might as well just cut it off now. Save us from just dragging it out.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I guess I should just go.
We'll need to re-record those vocals.
No, I love
You
it.
don't need me now. I guess I should just go.
I love her voice. I love the almost pain in her voice on that. Even though this is an upbeat song, she doesn't like her voice there, but I love how it breaks.
You don't need me now. I'm screaming in an empty room. Is my voice too loud for you?
Okay, I'm going to back it up because this may be the only time I back it up, but the fact that she already has made this a brilliant song with several different tones and everything, she comes in and does this. I know that she did earlier on Just Kids. She does it here and takes it to a complete another level. You think you've gotten as good as it's going to get, but it gets better. So here we go. Right here.
I'm screaming in an empty room. Is my voice too loud for you? Thinking about all that we used to do.
Wow. Wow.
And at this point, I've lost my voice. Trying to see through all the noise.
I love the choral.
Doesn't sound the way it used to. I guess I should just go.
Brilliant.
No, you don't need me now.
Yes, it is. I think she says, isn't that just great or something like that? Yes, it is. Grace, and you are great and simply adorable and amazing and a genius. Okay, so there's so many vocal aspects to this. You need me now. That melody ballad that she does, that chanteuse way that she can sing, and then she's got the rock that she perfected, frankly, in repeat. In repeat, she perfected. In my book, so she got that rock voice. She found the rock voice, and don't assume what you don't know in repeat. And I was blown away by repeat. Blown away, as you know, blown away by it. So she found that. She found her chanteuse voice early last year. and then spring of last year. I mean, how amazing. In the bathroom and other places, at her school and other places when so she got that voice. Then she started doing scat. She got the scat down. And she was doing some reggae, she's doing some little jazzy stuff. And of course, being a balladeer. So she's got all of these that she's been practicing. And some of them have been pretty good. Some have been amazing. But now, I mean, she's blending them all and bringing all or most of them into each song to where you never know what's around the corner with Grace. I mean, just like then when I stopped it and took it back, I thought she had filled out the spectrum of what she could do on this song. And then she blows us away with that rock voice. I love how Grace can turn a ballad into a happy song that has some very sort of emotional moments in it. I mean, it's a roller coaster with Grace. It's a gorgeous roller coaster with Grace. Wow. And I really love the chorals on this one. I like the sort of soft drum beat on this one. This to me, yeah, I'm glad that she's got that face on her. And she says, "Isn't that great?" Because yes, it is great. So I'm going to dive into the lyrics again. And y'all can fast forward if you don't want to hear me talk about the lyrics, but they're just too spectacular for me not to talk about. What I wrote at the top of these lyrics about the song was I said it was mesmerizing, emotional, and candid. That's what she's getting across on this song. So the first line on this, I'm not real sure what it is. I listened to it several times and wasn't real sure. I think it says, maybe I just don't recall him or recall in him. I'm not really sure. So I can't really talk about that. Maybe I don't recall is kind of the gist of it, I think. And this is not one, this is more of a storytelling song. I don't think it has quite it's not meant to have the masterful poetry of the previous two that I just talked about, but it's fantastic in the little tricks she plays with words. Have we lost it? Have we lost it? Have we lost the touch? Oh, that's what we've lost. I love how she does that. And I love the repetition. Again, Grace is always about repetition when she's trying to get something across. It's almost like she's having to think about it twice, and she writes it down that way, and it brings more impact to it. Have we lost it? Have we lost the touch? Just tell me straight up what it is you want. Straight up. Tell me straight up. I mean, isn't that Grace VanderWaal? Tell me straight up. And this is a straight up song. I mentioned that it was candid. This is a straight up song. And then she goes into that long phrase where I was doing the whole thing while she was going at it. It's that thing she did in Lungs, in so many of her songs. In fact, she did in the previous song. But if I'm seen as a cigarette butt, smoked one just to get a quick buzz, thrown down into the dirt someplace, when you've cried enough, might as well cut it off now, save us from just dragging it out. Wow. What is that? 40 words? It's a 40-word, 2 sentences that she does so fast. And you're on the wave, folks. You're on that Grace tsunami going where she's taking with those visions that she's taking. And the metaphors are just amazing on that. Never heard anybody do that before. So let me just go over them just briefly again. But if I'm seen as a cigarette butt. Have you ever heard that? I've never heard it. Smoked one just to get a quick buzz. I thought she was going to say throwing it away, like you do a cigarette buzz. But instead she goes, smoked one just to get a quick buzz, then thrown down into the dirt someplace. She doesn't just say tossed out. Thrown down into the dirt someplace. That's where you've thrown me, down into the dirt someplace. I'm a cigarette butt. My God, this girl. Great metaphor, and she takes it into places that you weren't expecting. When you've cried enough, again, Grace, emphasis, repetition, might as well just cut it off now, save us from just dragging it out. So nothing spectacular about that, but it's the finality to it that she brings to it. And that's no, I think that's another thing I like about Grace, is it doesn't always have to be masterfully poetic. She just gets down to business. Might as well just cut it off now. Again, her candidness. Save us from just dragging it out. She loves the word just. And then after this long thing that she took us on this wave of just I guess I will just go, slows it all the way down, lets us feel the emotions. No, and then again brings it home. Now you'll need me now. So that staccato thing that she does, and you're just like, it's amazing. And then I'll just go, and then she goes, and then she goes, it used to be so new and free and fun. That's nice. It's not great, but it doesn't have to be, because it's so clear. It used to be so new and free and fun. That's the early part of a relationship, right? And then she says something, again, that I've never heard said before, and it's a great contraposition to what she just said. Juxtaposition. Okay, first she says, it used to be so new and free and fun. Now she says, now it's all just jobs for everyone. Wow. Wow. What an amazing way to say that. Used to be kids. Used to not have to worry about anything. Now it's just jobs for everyone. Wow. Life is a job. And it is. Hopefully it's a fun job. But used to be so free and fun. New and free and fun. Now it's all jobs for everyone. Never heard that written by any lyricist ever. That's Grace VanderWaal for you. So she goes into the cigarette butt metaphor again. And then she's got one more phrase that's new. She goes, okay, so she does the later on. Then she goes, I was screaming in an empty room. Is my voice too loud for you? Thinking about all that we used to do. And at this point, I lost my voice. So I'm done. Trying to see through all the noise doesn't sound the way it used to. So the relationship isn't what it used to be. It used to be new and free and fun. Now it's jobs for everyone. Is my voice too loud for you? I've lost my voice and doesn't sound the way it used to. The metaphors just keep coming with Grace VanderWaal. The writing is so fresh. I mean, isn't that fresh? She just doesn't say it the way anybody else does. So while you're listening to her gorgeous voice, you're getting this extraordinary meaning coming across in new words, new phrases that are new, that you've just never heard them before. And the triple impact of everything, the meaning, the lyrics, along with her vocals that are just completely taking you to new places, the pacing on it, and then her performance. If you're watching her performance, the whole thing is just, it's almost too much to take in. It's just too enjoyable. It's too much. It's too emotional for me. That's the way this whole IG experience was. And it still is, even watching it now for the 4th or 5th time. All right. So we're going to move on to the next one, which is Just Let Me Hate You. We'll keep talking about the phrases. Just let me hate you. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that before. Grace makes it a song title. I think it's her song title. And that's the main phrase in the song. So let's move on to Just Let Me Hate You. Here we go. That's sort of reggae.
To my stomach and I remembering all the lies you told with such sweet eyes. I just want you out of my life. I know that is harsh, but you've got to realize.
All 4 of these songs are different. How amazing is that?
God, why don't you let me hate you? You mask up and can't be so likable and sweet.
Mask up.
Ooh, just let me hate you.
Wow.
Honestly, that is the least you can do for me.
That's the least you can do for me.
I had a dream about you once.
charming.
You smiled sweetly and stabbed me 15 times over. Sorries are not just a cover up and so that you can't do the same thing again. I don't trust one word from you, no, my friend. I don't trust one word from you, no, my friend.
Pure sass and character.
God, why don't you let me hate you? You mask up and can't be so likable and sweet. Ooh, just let me hate you. And honestly, that is the least you can do for me. For me.
Genius. Smoldering hatred, getting that across. Back.
Just let me hate you.
God.
You mask up and can be so likable and sweet. Just let me hate you. Honestly, that is the least you can do for me.
Anyway,
Wow. I mean, all four of those songs are so different, but this, all right, so this one, I mean, she takes us again on that roller coaster. Ooh, why won't you let me hate you? Or just, what was it she says? Just let me out. Just let me hate you. I mean, ooh, why do you have to be so sweet? Or what is it she says? Here. She says, ooh, just let me hate you. Oh, and honestly, that is the least you can do for me. That's the least you could do for me, is just let me hate you. I mean, this one, the weirdness about this song, the wonderful weirdness about this song is the reggae backdrop. I mean, you've got that sort of reggae bass guitar, regular guitar, as a backdrop, while she is going off, you know, just let me hate you. Honestly, that's the least you can do for me. And then screaming this out. And I like how she comes down off of that really fast and then back into a ballad. It's just extraordinary how she brings our emotions up and down on this. And again, I think I want to say again just how much I really like her rock voice, her screaming voice. I mean, it's one of the best of all time. It's just so amazing. I just love this song. I mean, it's not my favorite of the four, but I just love all four of these. Frankly, what they're getting across, how they get it across. I know I keep using the M word on masterpieces, but these are masterpieces of music. Maybe she's going to tweak them a little bit here and there, but each one, what they're trying to get across, just what? We're just kids. We're just kids, made it out alive. You need me now, and just let me hate you. These four works right here on an album. It'll be the greatest album of all time. Yes. Okay, so I want to go into the lyrics on this one. They're short. There's not a whole bunch of them here. But again, it's so evocative, like all of her music. Sick to my stomach, and I remember all the lies you told with such sweet eyes. Love how she says that. I don't think I've heard that phrase. All the lies you told with such sweet eyes. Eyes, lies, rhymes it up. It's wonderful. I just want you out of my life. Wow, again, Grace's candor. I mean, gosh, really, just not too many artists have that kind of candor. I know that is harsh, but you've got to realize, God, why don't you let me hate you? So she doesn't finish off that sentence. Why don't you realize? Realize what? That I hate you? So she doesn't go there. She just clips it, which Grace does all the time. She just moves on. She's already got the end of the phrase in her mind, but she doesn't need to say it. And this is another genius of her writing. So while we're hanging on realize, you've got to realize, she comes back and goes, God, why don't you let me hate you? And that's stunning. The first time you hear that, it's stunning. And even the next time when you know it's coming, you're like, oh, wow, that's just so amazing. It's unique. I don't think I've heard anybody say that before. And then I love how she comes in with, you mask up. Have you heard that phrase before? Where, even in the cinema, I'm not sure they say put on your masks, for a play. Maybe they say mask up. Maybe that's something that she's heard before. I don't know. I personally have not heard that. But somebody's putting on a mask not being true. So she's using it as a metaphor, obviously. But that just the way she does that, so crisp, 3 words, you mask up and can be so likable and sweet when you're masked. So it's not true. Ooh, just let me hate you. After she says you can be so likable and sweet. Honestly, that is the least you can do for me. I just love how she does that. Honestly, that's the least you can do for me is just let me hate you. Wow. I guess the person can't do anything more for her. But those 2 phrases, it's just genius writing. And then she says, I had the dream about you. I had the dream about you once. She didn't say I had a dream about you once. She uses the definitive article, the. I had the dream about you once. I had the dream about you once. She only had one, or it's one that she's referring to. It's one that she's got in her head. And she's not bothering to talk to us as if we're an audience of listeners. Because somebody who's doing that would say, I had a dream about him once. I had a dream about you once. I had a dream about you once. She's talking about a specific dream. And I love how Grace does that. It's, again, it personalizes it. I had the dream about you once. You smiled sweetly and stabbed me 15 times over in this dream, I guess. Wow. I've never heard that before. I've heard you smiled sweetly, and you stabbed me 15 times over? Somebody, I think a regular lyricist would say, and you stabbed me in the dream, and that would be cliched or that would be kind of stale. No, Grace says, and she doesn't say you stabbed me 15 times in the dream. You stabbed me 15 times over. That's wonderful writing. It's so evocative. And it's so candid. It's so hard. Sorries are, and I'm not sure this is the phrase, sorries are not just the comfort of it. It's something like that. Sorries are not just the comfort of it. It's something like that. That's unique as well. It's fresh. It's Grace VanderWaal writing. So that you can do the same thing again with your sorries. It's like Tracy Chapman. Sorry is all that you can say. Years gone by and still. So that's beautiful by Tracy Chapman. But it doesn't, and I love it. And I love Tracy Chapman. But this is better. It's stronger. It gets to it. I don't just want one word from you, my friend. I think that's what she's saying. I don't just want one word from you, my friend. And she says it twice, her repetition. God, why don't you let me hate you? And then it goes on with the repeats of, honestly, it's the least you can do for me. Ooh, let me hate you. So, it's brilliant. It's so candid, and the turns of phrase, and each one of those 4 songs, the turns of phrase, the repetitions, the fresh ways of putting things like a master poet does. And I know a fair amount of poetry, and I know good poetry when I see it. And I don't see it in modern music. I see it a little bit in the older music, But Grace goes one step past and uses such fresh phrasings. And then you add on top of that her storytelling. Each one of those, the storytelling and even the mystery in the storytelling, another Grace trademark, is so wonderful that Grace does that selfish thing that's good for an artist, and that is she writes what she's experiencing for herself. And then we get to be vicarious in our experience. And of course, we've had most likely the same experience or something similar to it. So we get to add our own experience to the mystery in her writing. And then, of course, you add all of that together with her one-of-a-kind vocals and emotional expression. I just don't think anybody's quite emotionally expressed themselves so wonderfully and beautifully as Grace VanderWaal. And then her her voice itself going into 24 different places. And then in this IG and with her performance on top of that. So you put all of those things together and you have that atmosphere that I was talking about at the beginning. And it's one reason why I do these Finding Grace episodes. But I think to wrap it up, I think what she has done in this IG live that she did on the 11th, I think it was, what she has done has shown the world that she has come to a new extraordinary threshold, a place. And she was already above everybody of her current generation. Now she's 2 or 3 steps above them, 2 or 3 cliffs above them. And now, in my perspective, she is now the greatest singer, songwriter, performer of the last 130 years. So I'm just going to put that out there, and I'll be glad to hear from y'all to let me know if you agree with me. If so, tell me why. If not, tell me why. And I just can't wait to see her continue this and to continue somehow, she will, to get even better. It's Grace VanderWaal. She's a genius. Don't have anything else I can say. I think I've said most everything. I know I missed a lot, but I want to hear from y'all. Let me know what you think. I know this was long, but I really look forward to your comments. Not quite as much as I look forward to her new music, which I can't wait for, but please let me know what you think, and I'll catch you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye now.